Hey everybody, this is Nostalgia, and welcome to another episode of Cheat Codes, where I give away tricks to get you to boss levels of production. Today is a special crossover episode for Play Me Records, so I think to start, we should take a look at the history between Nostalgia and Play Me.
Breathe whatever, feed this machine. Word up.
Today we're going to tackle something that can make a huge difference in your mixdowns. Now, I've mentioned this in other cheat code episodes before, but we're finally going to talk about it today, and that is bus mixing. Bus mixing is a technique that Skrillex learned from Noisia, where you take your laptop and some good headphones onto a bus and mix your songs while in the ambience of the city and its people. Ha! Okay, so that's a joke. But what is a bus in reference to mixing? In the audio world, a bus is a place where you can send multiple sources of audio so they can be combined and manipulated together as one piece. My DAW that I'll be using to show this is FL Studio by ImageLine, but these concepts remain the same for any DAW that you are in, so don't worry about that. If you watched my last cheat code episode, I had a free download for a template that's very similar to this one that I use when I'm starting my project files. So if you use FL Studio, go check that out. Otherwise, let me just explain a little bit what's going on here. So in FL Studio, this is the mixer window with all my channels and then my buses down here that I'll explain in a bit. Over here is the step sequencer window, and that is where you input MIDI notes for writing synth lines and samples and stuff like that. And then over here is the playlist view where you arrange your entire song. In the mixer, the way I organize it, I have my master bus over here. In blue, I have all of my summing buses, which is what we're going to be talking about today. I have my sidechain channel, then all of my drum individual channels are here, my bass channels are here, melodies are here, and effects are over here. So that's just some background. Now, before we dive into the actual techniques you can use when working with buses, it's helpful to know kind of the concept behind them. Every song is made of a few parts. A melody, such as a vocal or lead line, that's the part that you can sing or hum along to. Melodic rhythm, such as a pad synth or a rhythm guitar. Bass groove, which is bass guitar. And drums. And there is one other one that I like to add, especially for electronic music, and that would be effects or ambience. So each song is just a sum of those parts. Now, each of those parts may have a lot of pieces in and of themselves, but it all boils down to those parts that make a song. So I have those concepts reflected over here in my buses. I've got drums, bass, melodies, effects. I also have an all side chain, which is just my own design. It's a master fader before the master fader. And then I put my sub over here because it's a core piece that I like to have next to these guys when doing final mixes. And then I also have an aux percussion, which is everything that's not the kick and snare but still a drum, goes here, and then it goes in to get processed by the drums. So how do I go about figuring out what goes into a bus and what doesn't? First, I start by writing the song, and I make each element sound as good as I want it to. So let's take a listen to some of these. In the melodies, I've got a few pieces. I've got a quote-unquote guitar. It's actually this saw, plus this saw. Then I have the loop of secrets. Now this might sound a little bit like a drum loop, but I decided that I want to think about it like a melody, so it's going to the melody bus. And then I have an electronic guitar. It's beautiful. Now in FL Studio, to send a mixer channel to another mixer channel, you click this little flag down here. So I've sent all of these melodies to the melody bus. Same with the bass. The bass actually have another bus before the bus. I've got an acoustic bass sound, sorta. It's an electric bass, but plus a white noise with a saw called Whitey. and they are going to this bus right here, and then they're going to the bass bus. And the reason I did that is because I'd like to think of these as one piece, so I put them together into one channel, and then the rest of my basses can be processed separately. And then the drums, so I've got all of this, what I would consider auxiliary percussion, which is everything that's not a kick or snare, going to the aux perc, and then going to the drums, and then I've got kick and snare. So I get every one of these individual sounds sounding as good as I can, and then I think about what role they play in the song. So I decided these are all melodies, put them in a melody bus, decided these are bass, and so forth. Now, why is this helpful? The advantage to doing this is now I can process all of these things as a unit. So, for instance, if I have all the drums and I decided that my melodies now aren't coming through, rather than putting an EQ on each one of these guys, and normally in a finished song I'll have, 20 mixer tracks of melodies or something like that, I can have them all in one area and just put one EQ on them to affect them all at once. And that saves on processing power as well as your time. Another benefit from summing them all to a bus is that I can also mute them all at once as a concept. So if I just want the drums to pop out for a section, all I have to do is mute melodies and basses rather than going through each one of these channels and having a mute that I automate. So let's check that out for a second. I'm going to make it so that in this sort of rhythmic break of the song, the reverb and delays won't hold over in the melodies. So it'll be nice, just the drums will kind of shine through. So let's hear how they hold over quick. Now, I've created an automation clip just to mute it there. And let's mute the bass too so that doesn't hold over either. Okay, let's see what that sounds like. So that was really quick, and I only had to use 2 mutes instead of, 15. So it's not just EQ and mutes, but also reverbs. I could put a reverb to make the entire melodies, for instance, to sound like they're all in one big room. I use this a lot. I will take a lot of organic strings and brass elements, and I'll put them on a bus called orchestra, and then I will EQ that to make it sort of sound like you're listening to the orchestra somewhere, and then I'll put a reverb after that to make it create a space. So each one of those separate mixer channels will go into an orchestra bus and become part of one space. So that's a cool use of buses that kind of make it a little easier. Another big reason to use a bus, especially in electronic music, is sidechaining. You'll see I have a sidechain here. My sidechain is just triggered with white noise, but it triggers when the kick and the snare hit. And if you don't know what sidechaining is, I'll either talk about it in a later video, but there's probably a million of them on YouTube, so check them out. With buses, I don't have to create a compressor and have a sidechain for each individual instrument that I want to sidechain, which is pretty much everything except the kick and snare. I only have to make 5, and that is my buses. So let's check that out. So that is a quick way to control the elements of your sound with sidechaining that you don't have to use that much. Finally, one really handy technique that is used with buses is limiting, especially in electronic music. With limiting on each one of the buses, you reduce the amount of dynamics before the master bus. And that's what they call the master channel. It's actually a bus. It sums all of your mixer channels into one channel, so that makes it a bus. If you reduce the amount of peaks you send to there, you can lower your limiter threshold and make your song a lot louder. If you want a loud song, you're going to need to limit your buses, and you're going to need to have buses. That's about it for buses. I will quickly play the song one more time with all of the effects off from the bus so you can kind of hear how that sounds. And now with all the buses back on. All right, y'all, thanks for watching. This is a special episode I just did on the Play Me Records channel. If you want to check out more from me, you can go to my page. It'll be linked below or on the video somewhere. I do production tutorial stuffs. I got a couple of them up there. I got show recaps, DJ mixes, stuff like that. So check it out. There's gonna be some more production tutorials coming out from Play Me Records on their channel, so make sure you subscribe to them. Go subscribe to my page. Buy all of my music. Don't forget to leave me a comment telling me how I did, or if you have any questions or comments about how you do something differently, let me know and I'll be checking those out. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.